Hello and welcome to the February Tau Chain video update. You're here with me, Fola, and my colleagues Tomas, Andrei, Juan, and Ohad, and we're going to give you the updates through February. Firstly, I'm going to pass it over to Tomas for his updates.
Hello everyone. This month I've been working mostly on adding features into TML to enable rewrite of the prototype bot. In order to go beyond IRC, I added an initial networking features. It is possible to query the TML over UDP socket directly now. This enables us to run TML as a database or as a backend for execution of TML programs. I've continued to work on serialization and persistence of BDDs and TML runtime to allow restarting of a TML database backend without the need to recompress stored data through a textual form, which is time and space consuming. This is almost usable and will be pushed in the repository soon. So far it's without the memory mapping. I've created a test runner script for regression testing so we can check that old features are not broken by new changes. This could be later included in a continuous integration when we set up such a pipeline. So that would be all for this month.
Excellent stuff. Fantastic. And now I'm going to throw it over to Andrei for his updates this month.
Hello, everyone. This month was kind of fun for me. I'll show you what I did. Just give me a second. Okay. I continued playing with how discussions over Alpha Client may look like, where we can discuss some topics, or we can even program while discussing something. The example of discussion programming is here. So let's toggle the code. For example, we have a question how to reach some restaurant within some kind of meters. Programmers can discuss things and add something, like I want to add something. And instead of this helper, we don't need, just put the code. Yeah. And we have the discussion of the program over here, and the resulting program we can see here, and we can get it to run through TML interpreter and get the result of our programming. Another funny thing I've added is I've added a whole wiki data to understand things like Angelina Jolie, or I don't know, Donald Trump. It discovers Donald Trump now, iPhones, any other entities we know, not just simple things like cats, flowers, etc. And we can see it on the discussion tree when it updates. For example, we have a discussion about Syria crisis, where we can see Putin, Turkey, NATO. And for example, it discovered Turkey as a bird, not as a country. Sorry. Another funny thing, but it discovered, of course, NATO, Putin, that he is a leader. Okay. Another funny thing is we can now see what is the most frequent used entity inside the discussion. Here, like this discussion is about Putin, Turkey, NATO. This about Cat, Angelina Jolie, and Donald Trump. Yeah, we have the top over the whole platform. We have a global tree of all entities with all platform. We can browse, find links, for example. And as a little bit, of course, I've added several friend requests here now. And as you see in this light green is a sentiment like I hate Donald Trump will be something negative, just a funny thing. No, it doesn't show it. Okay, but it was working. Next month, I leave it like this for you to play with it. This month, I'll concentrate on moving HTTP server to TML for us to be able to influence the platform directly in TML. So we move all base to TML as far as we possible, as deep as we possible. So this will be my next month's task, and this month have play with it, have fun.
All right, thank you so much for your updates, Andrei. And I'm going to throw it over to Juan for his updates.
Hi, everybody. So this month, I kept focusing in the arithmetic features of TML. Fundamentally, I have been wrapping up most of the features we have been addressing in the last couple of months. And we are completing what we can name as two fundamental sets of operators. One of them are the general operators involving addition, multiplication, shift left, right, and shift left and shift right operators, and on the other side we have over BDDs operators that we described briefly in our last presentation, that involve taking two sets of symbols and doing the pairwise arithmetic or logic operation involving only those two sets. In that regard, we already have addition as well, multiplication, which we have been also testing. We have been testing it successfully during this month. We also have bitwise operators that involve, of course, bitwise AND, bitwise OR, and bitwise XOR. We just need to complete that set of operators with a bitwise NOT. We are also focusing regarding this, all of these features. We are focusing in improving the performance and cleaning up the current implementation. Yeah, we are mostly allowing the TML users or the community to enabling them in the parser and letting everything ready for everybody to be able to use them. So on that was the most focused on the development side. And of course, we have been addressing, led by Ohad, addressing the analysis of the theoretical foundations of such arithmetic operators, addressing them or studying or analyzing the fundamentals of these operations in order to find or to reach to the best possible implementation for them. So that was my mainly focus during this month. And yeah, for the next time, I should be sharing some slides showing everything clear and as a user guide for this new feature of TML.
Okay, and from my side of things, I've got a couple of things I've been working on through this month of February. One of the main things I've been working on is the branding. So we have a couple of different firms working with us, firms, I mean designers, working with us to basically redesign the logo. We have a website designer, but firstly, we're going to be working on the logo. So we're working on a ton of different logos, just making sure that it fits what we want to push. Those are the products that we release now on Agoras, and make sure it works with IBNI, make sure the company comes across well. So, yeah, so we're looking at a lot of logos, and it's one of the things where, you know, anyone who's done with branding before, it can take a little bit longer than the first logo. So the first company logo, you know, the second company logo is a lot harder than the first. There's a lot more thoughts and feelings, and then a bit more of an understanding of where the company should be going. And there's not really a timeline that you put on that, but it usually takes like a month and a half to really nail down a logo that everyone's happy with. So I'm not going to send it out and get the community involved. I'm just going to go and create it, make sure our team are happy. And once we have the okay, we can pretty much get the website done pretty quickly. Another area that we've been working on, what I've been working on, sorry, is the exchanges. And this kind of relates to a lot of the regulatory questions that we had in the Telegram channel over the past couple of days. So the exchanges, you know, there are two routes that we can get to big exchanges. Either A, we have a huge community, a huge push, and just a general social wave, you know, surrounding the project. That's method A, and that can help us get onto a lot of exchanges now. That's not going to help us get onto the US exchanges just yet. As I mentioned before, and for the 1000th time, the US exchanges aren't going to accept us until we have the legal requirements, which are parts of the product released and ready. And the white paper. And again, the white paper is coming pretty soon. We're writing that as quick as we can. Again, it's just a case of making sure that the right parts are in the right places for the white paper. It's in very, very good shape. And there's just not very long to go. But again, this is a very technical project, as you guys can understand. But the white paper can be written in a way in which you guys can understand, and you know, you can go and search it, take it to whoever you want, and you know, do what you need to do to validate and verify. But back to the exchanges. The second method that we can do this is by going from smaller exchanges to bigger exchanges. So just to give you a bit of an insight, when you go and talk to an exchange, they will ask you what other exchanges do you work with, you know? So to get onto Gate, you'd have to have a bit of BTC. To get onto the BTC, you'd have to have a white bit. And, you know, so one of the reasons that we have white bit is so we could start this process. So I did put the message out there in the Telegram channel for you guys to give us some feedback in terms of whether you want to go with HitBTC, what you think of HitBTC. I know you guys have mentioned KuCoin and all these other exchanges I've spoken to. A lot of them, we have people who are not, internally, it's not just me who works in exchanges. Again, you guys can see all of the people who work with us. You think there's just a couple of us who are on the website, but there's actually more people who work with us that are doing a lot more things on the exchange side. There's loads of people actually on the exchange side. So, and these guys have good relationships with exchanges, and it's, you know, some exchanges are just built better than others. I've mentioned this a billion times before, but some exchanges are just built better than others, just in terms of the contracts that they'll give us, in terms of the support and service that they'll give you, in terms of the, you know, the liquidity, the real volume on the exchange. So many factors have to think about before we can, you know, make the moves that we want to make and get to where we want to be. But you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of HitBTC. So please, you know, once you've seen this video, make sure you have an in-depth discussion on Telegram. Put your thoughts out there. I don't want to hear any FUD. I just want you to really, you know, get your ideas out. You know, you know, hopefully you guys can put some research out there, look into it, and you know, I'd love to hear your opinion. So we can take this on board. We can take this on board and see what to do next. Because ultimately, you guys are going to be the ones who are going to be using the exchanges. And speaking of exchanges, as I mentioned, we do have Whitebit, but Whitebit's a fantastic exchange to start off with. The this process. I do know that some people mention it was connected to B2B, B2B, and X rates. I do know that X rates and B2B, B2B do work together. It's not an exchange that we want to jump on with. Those two exchanges are the ones that we want to go with. But Whitebit, from what we understood, and from our relationship with them, they've been fantastic so far. You guys, I know a lot of people say, hey, win exchange. Get on there, go and use Whitebit, go and test it. Use it. It's a licensed EU exchange. It's open to everyone except for certain restricted countries, which are going to be sort of sub-Saharan Africa, and then obviously in the US. And you guys know that there are going to be two. Whenever there's a US exchange, that generally have an international exchange as well, because the US regulations are quite different to the rest of the world's regulations. So you might see that Bittrex has their own US exchange. And then you have Bittrex Global, which is based out in Europe, which covers the rest of the world. So get onto Whitebit, start trading, start get on there, start trading. For you guys are really about the trades and really about, doing what you said you want to do, which is, look for an EU market, good places to put your tokens, Get onto Whitebit, definitely get onto Whitebit and see what you think about it. I will say again, for the billionth time as well, do not leave your tokens on exchange. Do your research before you actually even use an exchange. Because there's only so much that we can do anyway. There's absolutely so much that we can do. So you have to protect yourself with any service that you use. Don't need to take an exchange. Go and do your due diligence again. So you're pretty much free to use or do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to use Whitebit, that's absolutely fine. Hold your tokens in a secure place. And then finally, what we've been talking about, what we've been working on is the hirings, and that's been a little bit longer than we wanted to take. But when you're working with really cool people, it takes a little bit longer to get really cool people on board. So I've been doing zillions of interviews back to back, trying to hire for the R&D manager role, and we do have someone who we're looking to take on board right now. It's in the contract process. And you guys know of Umar, who will be coming on board shortly. He's in the final stages of the contract process. And then we're also going to be getting a researcher on board as well. That's something that we didn't mention before, but just having a very specific researcher for the project dedicated to essentially lifting ideas out from Ohad and making sure that some of the research process is going as quick as possible. Again, that's something that should be happening pretty soon as well. So that's it from me, from a hiring perspective, from an exchange perspective, from a regulation perspective, from a branding perspective. Hopefully, again, some of these things, I just want to say that some of these things they're not things that you can just do in a day. I mean, if we could just get branding done in a day, then wrap up our website, done. But if anyone's created a logo with anything process like that, it takes a very long time to just come to a conclusion that we're very happy with. Because branding, logo design means a lot. Anyway, again, that's me. That's me for February. I hope to see you in March, and you guys can message me in the community channel on Telegram. Ask me whatever you want. If there's anything that's too big, I'll just say stick it in the Q&A for March. But onwards we will move. Thank you. I will pass the torch onto Ohad for his updates.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. And this month, Dragan finished the very big and difficult change of a dynamic bit ordering in the binary decision diagrams. We will need to test it and And this coupled with another change of enforcing strong types. Right now, up until now on TML, you could just declare variables, but it will not remain this way. You will have to associate a type with each variable. And Dragan also finished this. And by that, we can, we know how many bits to allocate for each type. And this saves us, it may save us exponential amount of time and space because of the nature of BDDs. And this also Dragan finished this month, and we need to test it very well because it is such a fundamental and big change. I spent this month a lot of time studying. I managed to get a hold of some very old literature that is impossible to get anymore, which is very relevant to what we do, with the precious information that apparently you cannot find anywhere else. So I've been busy and keep being busy studying those materials, especially in the field of Boolean algebra. Basically, the best methods for logical calculations that were derived about 150 years ago by Mr. Boole himself, mainly. Also, I've been trying to solve the long-lasting problem of how to efficiently and soundly with our code, how to support compound terms. One way is to borrow ideas from the world of monadic second-order logic and look at things as two relations. One of so-called prefix order is a kind of partial order, and equivalence relation, and then by manipulating these relations, we can manipulate compound terms. Another way is to use a specific data structure for terms being trees, which are data structures which borrow tricks from binary decision diagrams. And another way to go is to use binary decision diagrams with enhancing them. One way to easily state the problem, but not so easy to solve, is that we all know that BDD represents a set of bit strings, strings of 0 and 1, but we would like to support set of bit strings that may be grouped by parentheses arbitrarily. So you also need to store where the parentheses are, and in a way that has to align with so-called unification. Unification, I use the term from the scope of Prolog. Anyway, this all also led me to deeply consider the problem of homomorphism between structures, which is a fundamental problem, and it came before in front of us long ago already in a conjunct inquiry conjunction problem. It is of a great importance, and that's one of the things that I work on. I try to see how to solve this problem inside our framework. So that's for compound terms. Aside that, right now, as you know, we represent the data in TML in binary decision diagrams, but apparently there can be below, we call it so, the binary decision diagrams, another level of abstraction of data, which is representing them as Boolean equations. BDDs can be seen as explicit solutions to the Boolean equations, and indeed, the way to solve such Boolean equations, BDD would be the best way to go. But before we actually need to solve them, we can stay in some abstract level and have the data in an even more succinct way than it is now. So there is this point to how to use Boolean quotients in TML, how to incorporate them into the data, the heart of TML, into how it represents the data. By that, aside the performance gain, another gain, more fundamental gain, as one example only, is the ability to specify uncertain data. Right now on TML you specify tables, but each table is certain at the point you specify it. But using Boolean quotient, you can say it can be anywhere between this range and that range. So aside this usage of Boolean quotients to represent data in TML, it's a point that needs to be designed. I also need to work, I worked and I need to finish working towards a library for Boolean quotients that is built upon our BDD libraries. And from there we will be able to continue to use it inside TML and give TML many more features, including, of course, second order logic that we speak all the time. Everything that I said here is in this scope. And that's all for this month.
Excellent. That's the end of this February update. From me, Ohad, Juan, Tomas, and Andrei, thank you so much for tuning in. And we have a couple of questions in the Q&A, so please stay on for that also. Cheers. And this question is from Redney, and they ask, what are the next areas of research to investigate in order to complete TML, in addition to second order logic?
Yes, well, specifically for area of research for future of TML, well, first you said to complete TML. TML is basically already complete, it already fulfills what it is intended to fulfill. But to make it really accessible and usable, there is a lot of work. So future research in the area of TML will be monadic second order logic, which will give us the ability to reason over the infinities. This is not to be confused at all with the second order logic that I work on right now. Another thing is taking the second order logic that I work on right now and adding to it cardinality constraints. That's a substantial level of complication of things. Also, research that has to do with the knowledge representation to support more and more features, a common order of knowledge representation without breaking our logic. And the compound terms that I spoke about beforehand. So that's in short what comes to mind.
So we have a question from Dana, as always, very welcome, an active member from the community. He says, I understand Ohad agrees to lock up tokens for certain holders. What happens to these tokens if the coronavirus spreads and some token holders die from it? Are there plans for potential impact this virus may have on development? Like anyone in the world, there's only so much we can do in terms of how people, if people die. But in terms of, sort of disaster recovery, you're all free to email us with some reasonable disaster recovery methods that you can think of. Again, providing they're reasonable. And you know, you guys might want to do that beforehand. And then if someone dies and we have your locked tokens, we don't know what to do in that case. I guess we just don't know what to do. So are there plans for potential impact the virus may have on development? Again, we can only keep ourselves safe as much as you can, you know, as much as every other company in the world can. You know, we can only do about as much as everyone else can do. Cheers. And this question is from When Lambo, When Moon. Fantastic name. How far are we from solving the legal issues that nowadays do not allow our project to be on a reputable exchange? So it's not just legal issues. I mean, you might think that the exchanges won't allow us on just really from a legal standpoint. Now, if we're talking about the US side of things, I can definitely elaborate on that, and I can explain again that it's predominantly due to us not having a released product. So again, that's white paper, released product, things that we are working on. Those are the things that allow us to go to the US exchanges. Okay, this one is from Ping. What's the circulating supply and our current market cap? You can find that out with a very, very quick search. Or if you look into Telegram, if you just drop a note in Telegram, somebody will put it out for you. How do you envisage to attract more people when we'll be listed on better exchanges? Good question. So generally, the plan is to either A, go community first or exchanges first, and that's something that again we're playing with right now. But in terms of getting the community first, it's gonna be a case of either hiring people who are experts in growing communities, developer relations, getting developers on board, making sure that we're seeing the right places by the right kind of people who are actually genuinely interested in the project, not just from a trading token Agoras standpoint, but actually truly interested in the project. And again, attracting more people can also really be wrapped under marketing. And how we do marketing also relates to us handling those regulations. Just promoting your crypto is how you get in trouble with the SEC or getting placed on the watch list. So one of the mandates is to not promote yourself in the sense most of the projects are, but to take a different route. What is our route? Good question. Our route, as it stands, is to collect the necessary legal, I guess you can't call them approvals, but legal reviews in certain jurisdictions, and build upon what we can do in those jurisdictions once we have those approvals as time goes on. The most important thing for us is going to be having the product, having the white paper, and then having again the legal approval before or so after that. So our current route is what we've been doing already, which is getting the approvals, can't really say approvals, but I guess reviews, and as the product is closer to release, as we get those legal reviews, of the white paper as well, that's the route that we have to go down. So it's white paper, product, legal review, then we are free to roam the planet. Thank you. Right, so that's all we have for this February Q&A. As always, I want to see you guys in the next one. didn't really get many questions this month. So, you know, you guys, please make sure you keep adding questions for the next month. And yeah, hope to see you guys soon. Cheers.